One of the factions I wanted to discuss today is the Shogunate, which is from the Operation EarthFall sci-fi mecha story that I had mentioned a year ago. A year ago, I had posted several factions, their different sizes, and I plan on editing and making changes to that as well too. So don't take the population size and whatever you see from the previous post too seriously. I would say I'm going to make changes to those numbers and they're going to be much larger and bigger. But I wanted to set the theme of the story to be around the 2100s. And this is a time when Earth has tapped out of resources and nation states have sought to seek resources in the solar system to fuel their economies and even jumpstart new arms races. But one of the factions I wanted to focus on today is the Shogunate. This is a nation state where, or really an empire, that is what if Japan was ruled by a shogunate in a more sci fi storyline. Now, this comes from my own imagination and drawing board and storyboarding that I've been working on for the past year. At the top is the Emperor, which is a ceremonial figurehead, and the Emperor represents Amaterasu, the sun goddess, on Earth. Beneath the Emperor is the head of state and the governor of the territories of the Greater Shogunate and the supreme commander. The shogun oversees this vast empire stretching not only on Earth, but throughout the solar system. Their word is law. They create laws of the land, and they hold absolute power. They do have cabinet members that help run their day-to-day operations within the shogunate. Beneath the shogun is the various clans that govern their own solar system colonies and territory. They do have their own personal military forces, which they have to contribute to the shogunate during times of major wars and conflicts. The shogunate is the federal military forces. They will usually outnumber these clans as there is a limit placed on these clans' military forces. And following for the government is the judicial courts. These are usually enforced by military members, so the military is in control of law enforcement. For a further breakdown of politics, various factions consist of some who seek harmony with most of the major powers and believe in growing the shogunate's economic power. Others believe in pouring more money into the military and preparing for a major war. And then there are some who seek to expand the domain of the shogunate, believing that there is a greater goal of colonizing the Milky Way galaxy. Some factions consist of a hybrid belief, which consists of fighting a major war, fortifying the solar system, and military occupying the Milky Way galaxy, as some of these projects are known as Project Claim the Heavens or All Under Heaven Doctrine or the Galactic Shogunate. The shogun must delicately balance these factions as it could bring civil war and ruin to the domain. It is that or fall under the influence of the various factions. However, there is a race to building the gates to expand the reach and becoming an interstellar power as part of phase 1 of their heavenly project, as it has been a project secretly endorsed by the current shogun. One advantage they do have is in their commercial drives, which allows for a faster commute across the solar system. Between that and their tech is ahead of the major powers such as the North American Federation. They sell solar drive models to the major powers, but that does not mean that the other powers are catching up. Known as Raiden drives because they can travel at lightning speeds, these are class 3 and that is their latest standard model. In terms of arm races, there are the big 3. It is the Dreadnoughts, the Super Mech class, and the gates to exit the solar system. The Super Mech weapons can destroy an entire country on Earth or a colony in a continent. Some are in the form of bipedal titans, others are fortresses the size of mountains. These mechs require a larger crew size to pilot these weapons, and they rely on automation as well as robots for a majority of the other weapon systems. In terms of relationship with the major powers and neighboring powers, the first being the North American Federation. This is a cautionary approach to dealing with them. There is a military arms buildup between them and the shogunate, and they're exploring a new weapon program interfering in the Pacific Ocean and the colonies in the solar system. They are expansionists and seeking to be the hegemon of the solar system, and they have entered the gate race to expand their reach beyond Sol. Next is the Greater Eurasian Union, known as the Red Giant or the Red Horde. They are an immediate threat in the east, as their empire spans majority of East Asia and also parts of Europe. Following is the United Republics of Europe, or the European Federation. They're indifferent but willing to trade and be a necessary ally to deter the Red Giant or the Red Horde to the east. Next is the Republic of Joseon. The Shogunate is seeking to incorporate them in their empire. They provide protection and security against the Red Giant or the Greater Eurasian Union. The Shogunate has coerced them into forming a trade agreement between the two countries. Next is the Indo-Pakistan Confederation. They have developed a relationship with the Shogunate and are trading drives to share some tech to counter the North American Federation and the Greater Eurasian Union. They are trying to get them to be a thorn in the Greater Eurasian Union's side. And finally, Grand Brasilia, providing military arms and proxies to be a thorn in the North American Federation's underbelly. Brasilia wants to achieve the United South American dream by unifying it. They want to kick out the North American Federation and not have influence in the area. The Shogunate believes it can aid them with military assets. In terms of police, the military police are the ones that patrol the street both in the cities of the homeland and the various colonies. The national objective of the military is to protect the homeland, the colonies of the Greater Shogunate, defeat any threat or hostilities to the empire. All clans must contribute military forces and assets to the federal military, followed by conscription of those in the homeland and other territories in the Sol system. I also want to mention there is a class of robots called the Ashigaru class robots. These are standard infantry robots used to serve as occupational forces to police citizens fighting on the front lines in major operations as expendable machines. Tens of millions are produced and actively serving in the Earth Federation's territories or abroad in the colonies. The first branch I want to mention is the Land Forces branch, known as the Grand Army. The Grand Army is based in the homeland and the territories of Earth. There are expeditionary units on the Moon, Mars, and primarily used for the defense of the inner colonies and territories on Earth. They do man orbital defense platforms which are around Earth, Moon, and Mars. These platforms are useful for rapid response strikes to land troops on the ground, and they can be a defense against foreign warships. The next branch is the Space Forces. The Space Forces' objective is to protect the Shogunate's colonies, project power in space, and they are to be the dominant space force in the solar system. This is the most well-funded branch due to the Shogunate seeing space as a priority. There is a sub-branch in the Space Forces known as the Space Forces Infantry. These are the tip of planetary invasions, supported by bipedal mechs and robots. Mechs are 19 meters tall, and their uniforms are black, and the robots have a black color scheme due to representing the void. I wanted to talk about fortifications real quick. In terms of fortifications for Japan itself, it uses a hybrid of seawalls around coastal cities, which are lined with massive anti-air and shore-gun turrets. They can be controlled by an operator in a command center far away from the site. The purpose of the seawalls is to prevent amphibious invasions as well as massive flooding from tsunamis. Next is space fortresses. There's various classes of these. Some of them have massive walls and are lightly armored as well on the outer defensive wall. But the intention is to lure defenders inside the fortress and trap them, as there is a maze containing deadly turrets and other traps laid in store. The command center is one of the more heavily defended areas, as that makes sense to protect your leadership. The Moon, which is headquarters of Space Forces Command, has several heavily fortified bases. Also, the Lunar Fleet is stationed nearby in the vicinity of the Moon. Following is Mars. Several army units are deployed to Mars as tensions are sparked up by the major powers. There is the Martian fleet stationed in orbit above the Red Planet, and there consists of numerous military assets in play. As for the asteroid belt, there is a massive station by the asteroid belt as a refueling and refitting station, a way to jump off into the other parts of the solar system. And finally, there is Titan, which is the Outer Defense HQ. There are several task forces stationed nearby to defend beyond the belt. Now going into the remaining branches. Colonial Space Forces. These consist of smaller vessels and ground forces, used as expeditionary forces and rapid response forces from beyond the belt. There's the orbital drop forces, which can be used in useful operations such as deploying to Mars and Titans. They can reinforce the assets on Mars as well, but they are useful more so on smaller scale operations. The Navy. There is a wet water naval force which has ocean fortress mech classes that have the firepower of an entire fleet to counter the enemies of the major powers. They have mobile shipyards to build fleets on the high seas. In terms of mech forces, every branch has them. In terms of who has the most, the Space Forces and the Army would have the most out of everybody, and the fewest would go to the Colonial Space Forces and the Navy. They are bipedal mechs that can conduct a range of operations such as ground operations, amphibious operations, space operations, and even operations on colonies. In terms of on Earth, is that there are these massive cities on the ocean, these large man-made islands that are for civilians, but the military is also stationed there as well. And the last thing I wanted to tease was the Nara Imperium, which is an inspiration of the Mongolian horde as they seek to fight and conquer anyone in their sights. Anyone who does not bow to them is destroyed. They are conquered and colonized, known as the Galactic War Machine and known for their black ships. As of now, their threat is unknown as of January 2100. I hope you all enjoyed this and give this some love. If you want to hear more, let me know in the comment section below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. I love y'all, appreciate y'all. This is the Supreme Commander signing off. I'll see you in the next video.